Good morning. My name is Terry Taylor. I was asked by the clergy to do a God sighting report this morning. It is outside my comfort zone to do this because it involves a personal health event, and my inclination was to decline. However, God calls us to do things outside of our comfort zone, so after some consideration, I agreed. This past October 1st, I traveled from Richmond to New Mexico to attend a reunion. I left Richmond International Airport in the morning and arrived by shuttle at Angel Fire, New Mexico about 8:30 that same evening. I checked into my hotel. I went to my room, unpacked, called my wife, and went to bed. The next morning I woke to the room spinning around at what seemed to be thousands of revolutions per minute. It was so bad it was disabling. I could not sit up or stand up. If I laid on the bed very quietly and made no effort to move, then it got just a little bit better. But any kind of physical effort made things worse. I did manage to retrieve my cell phone from the bedside table. I have never called 911 for myself and was loath to do so that morning. I did, however, want someone from the reunion to know that I was there and that something was wrong with me. I couldn't work the directory on my phone well because I couldn't see it. The name I managed to hit was a woman named Marlene Flood. Marlene is a retired nurse and did not answer, but I left a message telling her my room number and that something was very wrong with me. After some time, my hotel room was opened by hotel staff and Marlene came running into my room. She held a blood pressure cuff and a stethoscope. Marlene lives in Illinois, and my first thought was, who travels with a blood pressure cuff and a stethoscope? Marlene quickly checked me over and she did dial 911. I was transported to the nearest hospital, which was in Taos, New Mexico, a 50-minute drive away, down a mountain on a two-lane road with numerous potholes and switchbacks. The paramedics had put an IV in my arm and were giving me something for nausea, but the vertigo persisted. I felt every pothole and every turn on the ride down that mountain. I have never been so miserable in my life, and if I had died on the way down to Taos, it would have been a relief for me. Taos is a very small place in rural New Mexico. The hospital there has only 22 beds, and I suspect I might have been the only patient. After spending a day in their emergency room and having numerous tests to rule out cardiac problems, stroke, and tumor, I was diagnosed with severe vertigo and admitted. I notified my wife Diane to let her know what was happening and had the emergency room physician brief her. I spent 3 days in the hospital. On the second day of my admission, I called Diane, asked her to drop her plans at home in Richmond and come to New Mexico to help me get home because I didn't think I could make the trip by myself. She was en route at the time I was discharged. God's presence and care were evident to me throughout this event. Diane and I both belong to several small connect groups here at Reveille. People from our Sunday school class offered her a meal and a ride to the airport. Neither was needed, but knowing that it was available and graciously offered was comforting. More important were the intercessory prayers that I know were offered on my behalf and on hers. I believe in prayer, and I know it is helpful. Diane needed a hotel room in Taos, and all the hotel rooms were full due to the local wool festival. She managed to get a room in a nice, newly opened hotel. Rental cars were scarce at the airport in Albuquerque because it was the weekend of the annual balloon festival. She got a rental car. Delta worked with her to cancel my return flight and get her the quickest flight possible from Richmond, as well as open-ended tickets for us to return home. Emailed messages, prayers, and cards from our Sunday school class, the men's prayer breakfast, and the garden committee were all comforting, appreciated, and helpful to my healing. And of course, I saw God in my wife. I also saw God working in many ways outside the folks here at Reveille. The reunion I traveled to attend was a reunion of my infantry company from Vietnam in 1969. The nurse who came to my rescue on the morning of October 2nd, Marlene Flood, was the sister of our platoon medic who was killed in an ambush on Good Friday in 1969. Back then, when we were in trouble, Mike Flood came running with bandages and IV fluids. That was the second thing I thought of when Marlene came running into my hotel room. I missed the reunion, but the people I traveled to New Mexico to see made the trip down the mountain from Angel Fire to Taos to visit me and pray for me while I was in the hospital. The paramedics and medical care personnel were genuinely concerned about and attentive to my welfare. Taos, New Mexico has no taxi service, and the sole Uber driver in the town, John, picked me up at the hospital, took me through the Walgreens drive-through window to get my prescriptions filled, and helped me check into the hotel where I waited for Diane to arrive later that evening. God is good to us. He works through other people to help us. We are all the hands that do His work. I saw God everywhere. I saw God in everyone I encountered that week in October.